Well, I grew up in Brisbane, in Queensland, on the east coast of Australia. My days at school were not particularly enjoyable. I was often caned for, I believe, daydreaming. I used to wear 4 or 5 pairs of underpants to school every day, just in case. The daydreaming paid off in the end, yes. I graduated as a teacher, and even there that was with much difficulty. But strangely enough, when I got out, I found myself finding all these creative ways of teaching maths. I was very much a hands-on person, and they gave me the job of overseeing the setup of this new school with all its equipment. Part of that was carrying out the rollout of about 400 desktop computers. I could see how easy it would be for these things to get stolen. After doing some investigation, found that there wasn't really anything suitable out there. And so I said that I might be able to design something. So rapidly made these lockdown kits with members of the family and got stuck into securing them just before school started. There was no idea that this would ever become a business. The depth of interest just demanded these things be made and be installed, and that all happened very, very quickly. And I think that the success of the company probably came about, as with many businesses, not so much with the founders or the owners thinking, how do I make this into a big business, but just simply getting on with the job of doing what you enjoy doing. Some of those become successful. And so James, who had begun by installing devices to begin with and visiting schools to sell our lockdown kits, and then it became sales manager of a small sales team.
Yeah, I think we had a really significant challenge around the evolution of the technology that was being used, and so therefore the problem that we needed to solve changed radically, from desktop computers being stolen to now laptop devices not only being stolen but being charged and being able to get a whole day in a classroom for students to be able to use them for their education.
I think that having the teaching background enabled me to think about what's happening in the classroom, to observe teachers and the things that they're struggling with, and thinking, how can that be improved?
We started seeing some huge initiatives come about, especially 2007, when the government gave every high school student in the country a laptop. So that was great that we were on their radar, and we worked with them to roll out at a scale that we'd never seen before, and in fact no one in the world had seen before. And that's how we began to export, because the world was watching. This is the largest one-to-one laptop program in schools anywhere in the globe.
I mean, it was James who took the company to America, and that was a big turning point. And so it was about that time that I stepped back from the day-to-day business of PC locks. And right from the early stage and right through to today, I can honestly say I can't imagine having anybody else to run the company. I can't think of a better CEO.
So we established Loc and Charge in 2010, and that's when we went to the US. When we moved, that was a significant change in our life. Convincing my wife to move to America, to a place where she didn't know anybody, it was a huge risk. And it started very small, and within 3 years we had to move locations 4 times. Like, it just grew so fast. People really engaged with our product, with our brand, with us. We were solving a problem in a unique way that no one else was doing it. We grew an incredible business at that time. Our first flagship deal was with Coachella School District in California. It was a huge rollout of carts. We really solved a problem. We gave teachers back basically 70 hours a year of teaching time for every cart that they purchased. And that spoke volumes to schools all around the US. And then companies were starting to see and understand the value of what it meant to have their devices stored, charged, secured, and managed in our products. So soon after we actually arrived in America, we also had a huge amount of interest from the UK and Europe. And then fast forward about 8 years later, we started seeing another initiative in Japan that was very similar to the rollout that we had in Australia in 2007. The next year had the largest rollout we've ever had of carts anywhere in the world in one single year. To know that we are truly global, being in UK, Europe, North America, APAC and Japan, solving a huge set of problems that are similar across the entire globe.
You know, to know that we have got business units around the world, each doing what they do best in the culture in which they live, in the languages in which they speak, is very, very exciting. As to whether I would ever have imagined, ever envisaged the company would be where it is today and that we'd be moving into this thing called connected hardware, the answer is no.
Dad has always had a sheer determination that things can be done a better way. That DNA still runs deep in the organisation of a firm belief that we can solve this in a far better way and a better way than anybody else. That has transferred from 23 years ago when Dad started this. I think that is still just as prevalent today. So our biggest evolution now is moving from just charging and securing a device to actually allowing organisations to know who is using that device, how long it's being used for, when it's being returned, is it being returned? And that is only possible by taking all of the 22 years of design engineering experience in our hardware and now connecting that to a software platform. So our vision is to become the most widely adopted smart locker company in managing mobile devices. This is happening across a multitude of industries. It's not just K-12, we're seeing it in Fortune 500 organizations, in healthcare, wherever it is, the need is somewhat similar, that people have mobile devices that they need to get into people's hands for critical business applications. And to be able to get a device to a substitute teacher when they come in at the start of the day, or to distribute a broken device or a fixed device in a manufacturing plant, on the production line, getting an iPad to a temp worker. All of these problems, they didn't exist 5 years ago.
We live in an IT-driven world. It is at the centre of everything, and so we are responding to a great need.
I'm really excited to solve the problems that we don't know exist yet. And I think that's been our mentality from day one.